It's time for the Your Personal Bank Show with Ference Toth, financial literacy educator and speaker, entrepreneur, and chairman of the board of Bank Information. Take charge of your financial future with Your Personal Bank. Now here's Ference Toth.
Welcome to Your Personal Bank Show. Well, what are we going to talk about today? I have been traveling quite a bit over the last couple of weeks. I was fortunate we got to go to a conference in Lake Tahoe and learned some cool, great stuff and all that. Had some fun, too. It was a combination kind of thing. Got to bring the family. It was great. Of course, those of you who've been paying attention to the news, of course, we kind of got smoked out. It was like living in a campfire every day. The wildfires over there were just crazy. Couldn't see the lake, which was sad, because anyone who's been to Lake Tahoe knows it's absolutely beautiful. So I'm going to have to bring the family back there another time when it's not on fire, I guess, so they can see it. But we were able to get out actually right before they started evacuating the place. So, but the point I really want to get at, and we spent a little more time over in Vegas and such like that. But what I found was interesting, and this was, and those who've been listening to the show know that a month or so ago, we took a family trip up through Utah and Yellowstone and Idaho and stuff like that. So I've been doing some traveling over the last couple of months or so, and it's really eye-opening the difference that we've seen in the different areas, different cities we've been in. In fact, for example, when we came to Nevada here, we were shocked to find out that you had to wear masks indoors, anywhere, no matter everyone, vaccinated or not. Apparently the governor decided that was a good idea. Haven't worn a mask probably in 6 months anywhere in Arizona, but so we're pretty surprised, had to dig them back out and find them. But here was what I found was quite interesting about all this, and I'm going to tie this together. You'll see why this is so important just in a few minutes, so stay with me on this. The thing is, perfect example, so we were getting gas, and I walked in to pay for the gas, and I, of course, forgot to put my mask on. I'm not used to wearing them, right? Kind of surprised that anybody still got that out there. And the guy, he was a young guy behind the counter. He was very nice. He said, well, sir, he goes, next time you come in, I'm going to have to ask you to wear your mask. And I said, okay, yeah, sure. I said, well, and it just hit me. And I responded to him. It was a spur of the moment thing. And I said to him, well, yeah, I said, okay, I'll do that, but I need you to do me a favor. He looked at me kind of funny. He goes, what's that? And I said, well, next time you vote, please vote for somebody who supports our civil liberties. And he looked at me, and like I said, this is a young guy, early 20s, I would guess. And he looked at me and he said, amen, brother. I wasn't expecting that. So I started kind of sharing that same idea everywhere I went. I've kind of taken the attitude that if there's a sign, no sign, whatever, I don't care. And they do require masks. I'm not someone who's trying to be difficult. Never have, but I basically, and for the most part, try to make somebody ask me to put on my mask who works there. And I'll do so. And I want to do that to make a point and to inconvenience them. And I say, and I'm nice about it. Understand. Whether you agree with mask mandates or not, I think you're going to understand my point here in a sec. I'm not trying to be difficult or anything like that. I'm trying to make a point and educate. I'm an educator at heart, I guess. And I say, look, I put it on. I'll put it on. I know you're just enforcing a rule. You didn't make it. I don't try to give them a hard time. But I started sharing that idea. But please, next time you vote for somebody that supports our freedoms. And I can say that I've been doing this for quite a while now. And about 80% of the time, surprisingly, and I'm not necessarily in conservative strongholds all the time, or, people I'm talking to, you would consider probably would lean towards being more liberal. In many cases, not always, but about 80% of the time, I'm getting that positive. You're right, or there's an agreement there. And here's why I think this is so important. Our freedoms, are more important than anything else we're talking about here on this show. This is a money-focused financial type show. I get that. Talk about the personal bank concept. I talk about how to create positive arbitrage all the time. Earn more in your money than they charge you when you access it, so you can create positive arbitrage on money you spend or invest or use elsewhere. Today I'm not going to talk about that a lot. If you want more information on that, I'm just going to say contact me at toll-free 866-268-4422 or at yourpersonalbank.com. And you can listen to any of the previously recorded shows or, like I said, reach out to me, and I'll be happy to discuss it with you. But if we don't have our civil liberties, we don't have our freedoms, it really won't matter, how we try to earn our money. I always tell people, look, the things I focus on with folks is help them learn how, earn more, how to earn your money, keep it and pass it on to the next generation, right? It's about earning it, keeping it, and passing it on. How do we maximize that? How do we increase that? And there's many, many ways of accomplishing that. And creating positive arbitrage is one of those big ones, by the way. How to make sure your money go further, do double duty, all that stuff. But without freedoms that we enjoy in this country, all that doesn't matter. And what a lot of people, I think, fail to realize, or it's easy to forget, we're in a very, very, we've had very little issues in terms of, as a society, our country, real challenges. And I'm talking about, things like wars and depressions and things like that, which is not necessarily true in a lot of parts of the world, even today. I mean, the freedoms that we enjoy in this country, don't exist in China or Cuba or Russia, for example, or North Korea. Many parts of Africa, I could name off a bunch of places. And folks, that's the majority of the world's population. So the fact that we have the freedoms that we have is a blessing in and of itself. And to allow those to be eroded because we're asleep at the wheel, or we're just not paying attention, or we don't care, or maybe we think that the government taking care of us or socialism might be a good idea. All those different, whatever those reasons are not, it's just not important. Those of us that understand that freedom is important need to make sure that we're educating those that are maybe not paying that much attention. I'm going to give you a great example. So I got to experience a pretty cool thing. I've told my story many times on this show and over the years, how my dad escaped from Hungary, from the Soviets, risked his life literally to escape and escape to freedom, the land, and to the land of opportunity, the U.S. And my uncle, his brother-in-law actually, escaped with him, and I had met my cousins once before. About a decade ago, we were able to catch up with a couple of them here just this week. So it was really pretty cool. And I was talking to them about some of these things, and these very things came up. And what's interesting is a couple of these cousins I was talking to, they were now retired, but they both live in California. One was they worked in the school system and all that. And if you say, L.A., Riverside area, and if you asked that, or thought that, you would consider, you would think that someone from that experience and that background and living in that area would probably lean kind of more to the liberal side of things. Well, folks, they don't. And the reason they don't is they have the same family history that I do. Their dad and mom, and they were in the old country in Hungary and were old enough to remember it. They came as older kids, basically. They remember that stuff. They have that experience firsthand. And like I was talking to one of them here just today, actually, and she said, I was saying something about this, about freedom and how it was important, and how, I said, look, we have the family history. We have the story. We have the experience. I don't have the personal experience. They do. And she said, when you talk to immigrants, and I said, yeah, legal immigrants, she goes, you're right, or first generation, folks, they get it. So here's what I'm going to encourage somebody, if somebody's listening and they think that the government or government should do this or government should do that, or get, looking to the government for answers or solutions to things, Maybe you think, there's been a lot of propaganda, in my opinion, out there about socialism maybe being a better way than capitalism and all these things that are, going on out there. And maybe, on the surface, some of the stuff sounds really good. I'll admit it does. And if you're kind of thinking maybe it's kind of sort of, hey, that might, what I would recommend you do? I'll challenge you to do this if you haven't. Talk to a legal immigrant or maybe first-generation person. And somebody, particularly someone who's come from a country that doesn't have the freedoms that we enjoy, comes from a Soviet, communist, dictatorship, socialist type government, whatever it is, doesn't matter. But they escaped, they left for an opportunity and get their perspective on things and what they think about, the government doing more or socialism or any of these things that we hear that, are being proposed to on us, right? Get their perspective. And I'm going to say, if you haven't talked to somebody like that, it's going to be eye-opening for you. It'll be an eye-opening experience. And not necessarily a negative one. It isn't like I go around, challenging people or being difficult. But what I do try to do is I do try to get people to actually think. I do that with this show. I've been told I'm one of the guys, a client of mine who had been listening he says the problem is, Ference, you're a thinker. You think about things. But again, that's also a good thing. A lot of people don't think about the reasons why. Why does our government leaders want to do more? Why do they want to seem to tax more, do more, give us more, all this other stuff? Well, the reason's quite simple. It has to do with money and power, right? If they take over something, they gain more control, which means they gain more power, which then leads to more money usually. For them, for the leaders, for the elite, for those that are in charge, not for the rest of us. So it's good for them, but not necessarily for us in most cases. And, I don't know if I even want to talk about this because it's so ridiculous about all this stuff. If you just want an example of how our government inept can be, just look at Afghanistan as a perfect example. I mean, folks, it's embarrassing. And I was in the Army. I mean, I wasn't no leader or expert, but I could tell you that how it went down is ridiculous. So that just gives you a quick example of how inept government can be. Look, if you want more information on how to improve your financial situation, contact me at 866-268-4422 or yourpersonalbank.com. We're going to talk more about how all this affects us, our money, the economy, and how do we navigate all this. So stay tuned.
For more information on Your Personal Bank, feel free to contact Ference at yourpersonalbank.com. Back to the Your Personal Bank Show with Ference Toth.
Welcome to Your Personal Bank Show. We're talking about today, really about freedoms, how important they are, and how it affects us, our lives, our money, our family, all those things, business, whatever that may be. And like I said, I always feel like I'm walking a bit of a fine line when I discuss these things because I understand, particularly as I wade into the political situation, as divided as our country is right now. I understand not everybody that's listening agrees with what I'm saying. Here's what I'm going to say. We can agree to disagree, but you'll know where I stand, at least. I'm unapologetic about that. And obviously that's because of my experience. I'm fortunate that I'm able to share that. Not everybody is as free to do that because of where they work or whatever it may be. I'm fortunate that I can, but also at the same time, I'm in the financial arena. I'm in sales. I generate clients and stuff like that. And obviously some people, could be offended by some things I say. And the last thing I'll say on that is even my wife, she'll say, you don't want to cross the line and upset people. And I'm not trying to do that. What I'm trying to do is get people to think. I'm trying to educate people and help them understand maybe a little bit better why the things are the way they are. And I learned this something a long, long time ago, the great Rush Limbaugh, I learned this from him. And whether you agree with him or not, I don't think it's important. But one of the things he said was, if you want to understand why something is the way it is, follow the money. And he's so right about that. And that's true with just, anything, frankly. So if you want to understand why it is, for example, our government, many leaders on our government, I should say, seem to want to, do this, do that, take over our lives, so to speak. You got to ask yourself the question, why do they want to do these things? Like when they're giving out extra money to people and doing all these other things that they're trying to take over let's put it this way. A politician is it's pretty easy to figure out. Thomas Sowell said this really well. He said, there's three things that a politician is concerned about. First and foremost, politicians are concerned about getting voted in. Second most important priority is to get reelected. And every other priority is far below the first two. Again, I'm paraphrasing, but it's very accurate. So we know what they want. And one of the things that politicians do, not all of them, but many, to get power is by bringing home the bacon, so to speak. If they can give benefits to their people they represent or people who think they'll vote for them, then they'll get reelected, right? Which gives them power. And that power generally leads to them making more money. I mean, how many times have we seen elected representatives maybe not be all that wealthy when they get there, and they're not there very long, and gosh, after a couple of years, they're multimillionaires. And, where's all this money come from, right? So the leadership, what I'm trying to say is when the leadership wants to do things and take things over and give things to people and it's to get that people to vote for them so they get more power. That's obvious. The part I don't understand, the part I struggle with, and that's what I try to help educate people, like I was sharing with these ideas before, is, over half of registered Democrat voters today favor socialism over capitalism, for example. That's a real threat to our society. Because socialism is part of Marxism. That's a fact. I know they don't like to be called that, Marxists, but it's a fact. Karl Marx came up with it. It's in his book. Socialism and communism are closely related cousins. It's basically, again, if we all understand, most of us understand this, if you don't have much, socialism sounds great. If you're fiscally responsible and you've done something to build some sort of wealth or whatever in your life, and in most cases, people work hard for it. I know that for a fact, personal experience, working with many, many clients over the last couple decades. Taking some from the haves to give to the have-nots may sound fair, may sound good, may all that up front, but the reality is it's very, very, very unfair to the person who was fiscally responsible, who did the right things, who worked hard, made good decisions and all that. And I know that's not politically correct, and that isn't what people seem to want to hear these days, but that's the facts. The person who went out, and went to work and worked hard and did all this stuff, I shared this example a while back, and I think this is a common example that, socialism basically is explained. You got 10 kids in school, like kindergartners, let's say, or young kids, and 5 have a cookie and 5 don't. So it's only fair that the 5 that have a cookie, they break it in half, and the other to give the other 5, so everybody's got half a cookie. Well, it all sounds great on the surface, and they try to use that as an example. Well, that's not how life works. A better example is, like I shared before, is let's say 5 of those kids during their summer break, they went to work and mowed lawns and threw papers and whatever to make money so that they could go buy flour and other ingredients to bake cookies, then went and baked the cookies, and then went to school, and they had a cookie because they worked for it, right? They went to work to make the money, to buy the ingredients. They put in effort to bake them and make them, and now they have them. The other 5 kids goofed around, played video games all summer, did nothing. And now you're going to say, hey, to the 5 kids who worked all summer so they could have a cookie, say, well, you know what? Give half your cookie to the 5 kids who goofed around and played video games all summer. How fair does that sound? And obviously, that is inherently unfair. Folks, that's socialism. That's communism. That's redistribution of wealth. This equal outcome stuff is just inherently unfair because people are not equal. People have equal opportunity, that's one thing, but people are not equal in terms of their skills, what they do, how hard they're willing to work, and all that. And you're going to punish the ones that are willing to work to carry the ones who are not. And even the Bible says if a man's doesn't work, he doesn't eat, right? And I know that's not popular with many people, but whether something's popular or not is not important. Is it true? And that's one of those things that needs to be important. I say this all the time. Look, you can tell me that gravity isn't real till you're blue in the face. Jump off a tall building. Let's see what happens. Right? So people can yell and scream and holler and whatever they want to do, but if facts are facts. Being fairness, when somebody starts appealing to that sense of fairness, you have to think through it. You have to think through just a little bit further on just the surface, because on the surface it sounds fair. Yeah, 5 kids have a cookie, 5 don't. Cut them in half. Everybody's got half a cookie. It sounds fair. But when you realize behind it how those kids got the cookie, it just wasn't given to them. It becomes inherently unfair. Well, stay tuned in the next segment. I'm going to talk about some more things and how do we navigate this kind of world that we're in where so much of that is going on. So contact me at 866-268-4422 for more information, or yourpersonalbank.com.
For more information on Your Personal Bank, feel free to contact Ference at yourpersonalbank.com. Back to the Your Personal Bank Show with Ference Toth.
Welcome back to the Your Personal Bank Show. And like I said, today we're talking about our freedoms, how important they are, how valuable it is, how we need to make sure we protect them. And we're having unprecedented attacks on our freedom. There's no question about it. I mean, I've been traveling here in Nevada the last couple of weeks, and, I've had to wear a mask every time you go inside somewhere. I'm going to share this thought again if you missed it earlier. By the way, if you missed any of the previous shows or this previous part of the show, go to yourpersonalbank.com. You can listen to any of the previously recorded shows anytime you want. Of course, you can contact me at 866-268-4422 for more information. But, it's in my opinion, ridiculous when a governor just decides there's going to be a mask mandate for all people, whether they're vaccinated or not, if they're inside. And, we were staying in Lake Tahoe, which is on the California-Nevada border. Ironically, you could go into California and not have to wear a mask, go figure, and walk across, step right over, and you're in Nevada, and now you have to wear one. And they were give you an idea, they were doing some silly things like in the casino. I didn't. I just looked into it. I didn't do any gambling. Not my thing. But they literally had signs that were telling people to put your mask back on in between drinks or smokes, puffs of smoke. And they had, I call them mask Nazis, going around enforcing these rules. I mean, come on, folks. What kind of country do we really going to live in or not? You know what I mean? And when are we going to have some people just stop treating us like babies? We're adults. Come on. In a casino, you got to be 21 and to even be there, right? Come on. Well, you know what? You're 21. Isn't that enough? Come on. But anyway, it just when is sanity going to come back is what I'm trying to say. And I understand there's some people, and I've had discussions with some of them, who are living in, well, I don't know any other way to put it, just tremendous levels of fear. And it just goes to show you, our legacy media, for the most part, and a lot of leadership in our current government, administrations, state and federal, frankly, have really sown this fear. I mean, in this propaganda, just unrelenting. I mean, Joseph Goebbels of the Nazi Party talked about how effective propaganda could be. He said, you tell a lie over and over again enough, people eventually believe it. I'm not saying COVID itself is a lie, don't get me wrong, but the level of fear that's been instilled in many people to the threat, the level of threat, like the threat of dying from this, for example, especially now, and if you're vaccinated and everything else, is so low. It's just sad to see. And it's sad that that's been allowed to happen. People have pursued this propaganda like this. And you got to ask yourself the question, why? Why are they doing what they're doing? There's got to be some benefit, right? Why would the media and many in leadership in the government, state and federal, pursue this kind of these actions, these level of control and attacks on our freedoms and stuff? And you've got to understand it has to do with power, all right? And as I've been sharing this idea and over again with people, and I hope this is something that spreads like wildfire, is whenever you have the opportunity, you can do it in a nice way. You don't need to shove it down somebody's throat, but say, hey, next time, do us all a favor. When you vote for someone who supports our civil liberties. Look, these are civil liberties just like any other, whether it was a civil rights movement or the right to vote for women, for example, the suffrage movement, or any other for that matter. Our country has been won. This is why I think it's so sad. Our country certainly was started on a great idea, the Declaration of Independence. The Constitution and the Bill of Rights followed along with that. And it gave the average citizen an unprecedented level of freedom. Now, it wasn't perfect by no means. For a long time, women couldn't vote. Frankly, that's ridiculous. It's pretty much thought of ridiculous today, but you go back in the times back then, there were slaves. I mean, it wasn't perfect by any means, but the idea was a good one, a great one, frankly, and has given more freedom to more people than in any time pretty much in human history, and that's just a fact. And for that to be attacked and all that is just not correct. It's not accurate. But to see, and we've improved upon those freedoms over time. Women did get the right to vote. Slavery was abolished. The civil rights movement gave a whole group of people more and more rights than they had before. In other words, our country over time has moved in the right direction. These past couple of years, we've moved in the wrong direction. Less freedoms, and that's sad to see. Stay tuned in the last segment. I'm going to go into more about how we navigate all of this, so don't miss it.
For more information on Your Personal Bank, feel free to contact Ference at yourpersonalbank.com. Back to the Your Personal Bank Show with Ference Toth.
All right, we're going to wrap this up today, and today, again, I'm talking about freedoms, and some of you might be asking, well, what's this have to do with our money? Why should I care? Well, folks, I want to help you understand something. It has everything to do with your money. The fact that you even have the freedoms that you have today give you the ability to earn, keep, and pass on the money that you have. Without those freedoms, you would not have that ability, period. In other words, try building wealth in a communist country or a dictatorship and not be in favor with the leadership. Good luck on that one. And some people say, well, that'll never happen here. Really? I used to say that would never happen prior to COVID, and a lot of things have happened since. I just stopped saying that. The point is, Jefferson said it, our freedoms have to be fought for every generation. Ronald Reagan said similar things. Many, many other folks have said the same type of thing. Our freedoms are important for our ability to earn, keep, and pass on the money that we make. It's that simple. Without those freedoms, forget anything about this show, the radio shows you're listening to, or anything else, your portfolio. It won't matter, folks. This is fundamental, okay? So we need to, if you are fiscally responsible, and I would venture to say the vast majority, if not every person just about listening to me right now, is or wants to be fiscally responsible, because you either have or want to build something for the future, for yourself, your family, all that stuff. This is important stuff. You can't just focus on rate of returns and all these other things. That's all good and well, but these freedoms, these basic freedoms are important too, because let me give you a quick example. Thankfully, the Supreme Court shot down Biden's rent eviction moratorium as unconstitutional. I mean, they ruled on it back in June. He extended it anyway, stating that he thought it was probably unconstitutional, but he'd do it anyway to give people more time. I mean, here you have a president who put his hand on a Bible and said he would support and defend the Constitution of the United States. Then later turns around and says, well, I'm going to extend this rent eviction moratorium, even though a few months ago the Supreme Court stated it was unconstitutional. And I think it probably is, but I'm going to do it anyway. You know, he swore on oath that he would support and defend the Constitution, yet turns around and flagrantly just doesn't care. Folks, that is an attack on personal property rights. Obviously, the appeal, why did he do it? Because he felt like a lot of the people that would support him were renters, right? Who were, if they got a free lunch, a freebie, whatever it would be, they would support him for that. He's giving them more, whatever, right? But who's it an attack on? The landlord. And, a lot of people paint landlords as these big, bad, evil people. Look, I've been a landlord and I've been a renter in my life multiple times on both sides of the coin. I've had good landlords. I've had bad landlords. Okay? You can't paint them all with a brush. And statistics show that about 40% of rentals in the United States happen to be mom and pops. In other words, it's folks with just a handful of properties, mostly to supplement retirement as a retirement income. That's almost half of the rental properties in the United States. He directly attacked those people. In other words, those people didn't have to pay. They could stay for free, do whatever they wanted to do, and these people who were just trying to supplement their retirement, nothing more, had to pay. If they had a mortgage or taxes or whatever it is, they had to pay the expenses and not receive any income from it. How do you think that impacted their retirement, for example, particularly if they were counting on this for a substantial part of their retirement income? I can tell you there's a lot of clients I've worked with over the years, my career, who have significant portions of their income coming from rental property. I mean, it's been a way to build wealth and create income for forever, frankly, as long as anybody can remember. And yet our president, or the current one, whatever we won't go there on that. My point is, flagrantly, unconstitutionally says, do it anyway. Heck with those people. Who cares if you own the property? I'm just going to step in and take over and help these people and hurt you indiscriminately. Why is this so important? Well, two things. Thankfully, we have three branches of government, and a co-equal branch, the court system, shot it down, finally, thankfully. But two, if the president now is willing to go after private property rights, what else are they willing to do? They've taken an approach that is more socialist, radical than this is a fact, than any administration previous in the country's history. Period. What else? What is your portfolio safe? I don't know. You see, I'm not trying to be an alarmist here, but But I want you to understand is if the administration is willing to attack folks who are landlords and attack directly personal property rights, what else are they willing to attack? What else are they going to go after and try to take over and try to control? In other words, we need to stop them. You need to step up before before the next thing happens. You see what I'm trying to say? We got to protect our freedoms, and personal property rights in particular are, frankly, the fact they were willing to do that is amazing, because if you go back in history and you look at this, in the Declaration of Independence, this is the original, very first founding document of our country, and they talked about the right to life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. We've all heard that. We the people, all that good stuff, right? But it was the life, liberty, and pursuit of happiness. So we had that right. We had that inalienable right given from God, right? That's what it states in the Declaration of Independence. The Founding Fathers discussed and argued about what to say there exactly. And life and liberty were pretty straightforward. The pursuit of happiness was the portion that Jefferson and Franklin and others vehemently had discussions and arguments about what to say, because this was the declaration to the king, right? This was serious business, and they wanted to make sure, and they were very serious and very strategic about what they wanted to say. And many of the discussions were talked about the right to own property. In other words, the Declaration of Independence could have said life, liberty, and the right to own property, because their definition of pursuit of happiness revolved around the right to own property. Look it up in the history books. It's there. My point is simple. This is a fundamental, foundational right that we have as citizens that our current administration just whatever. We can just, it may be unconstitutional, but I'm going to extend it anyway. You see how flagrant that is. You see how cavalier that attitude is. Disregard of our very, very rights as citizens, of disregard to our Constitution. Again, I'm not trying to be an alarmist, but I guess maybe in a way I am. What I'm trying to do is you know what? Sometimes I feel like Paul Revere. Hey, the British are coming. The British are coming. Wake up. Don't let them take this from you. Hey, they're coming after your rights. They're coming after your ability to make money, earn it, or keep it, pass it on to the next generation. Wake up. Don't let it happen like it has happened in so many other countries, so many other times throughout human history. Folks, you need to understand how rare this gift of these freedoms we have now, and that were given to us by our founders. How unusual and how rare this truly is. Don't take it for granted. Don't take it. Don't think it's just, it's always been here. It's been here my whole life. It's been here for generations. I'll be there. It could disappear if we allow it to. So this is foundationally, fundamentally important. And that's why I bring it up and talk about it so much and so often, because there are people out there that are doing this. I'm not the only one, and I'm thankful of that. I felt like almost a lone wolf initially, but there's a chorus that's growing, and that's encouraging. But I do believe, if you have to ask me my opinion, I'm not 100% certain about the future direction of our country. I do believe the midterm elections next year will make a huge impact on the direction of our country in terms of our freedoms. Are we going to have a bigger, more encroaching government taking over more and more of our freedoms or not? And a lot of that is going to have to do with who's in power in the Congress, for example, House and Senate. And my opinion is that we have about a year before that happens, that next election. And we need to educate enough people to help them understand that socialism, for example, may sound nice on the surface in theory, but in practicality is not what it's cracked up to be. Ask people who lived in it or left it or escaped it. More government power means less freedoms for us. If you ask the government to do something, it means you're voluntarily giving up a freedom. I think Benjamin Franklin, he said something to the effect that, those who are not willing to fight for their freedom don't deserve it. Something to that effect. This is important, folks, and that's all I'm trying to say is, and we can do this in a nice way. We can educate people, and we don't have to educate everybody. Here's where I'm encouraged. Every presidential election for the last several decades just about has been a very close affair. It's like 51-49% kind of stuff, right? We only need 1 or 2%. 1 or 2% out there to understand that protecting our freedom is key to everything else, the ability to earn money, make money, keep it, pass it on to the next generation. Keep our taxes low, keep the government out of our lives, not bother us. The reality is this. I work with and meet and have clients literally all over the country. So I have maybe a little bit more unique view than a lot of people. So I work with people from all over. And we don't always some people think they all agree with me and no, that's not the case. We many times agree to disagree, but we have intelligent, thoughtful conversations oftentimes, and folks I work with and clients even know where I stand, and we respect each other for it. My point is simple, is helping people understand how valuable our freedoms truly are and how easily they can be taken away if we allow it to happen. That is our best bulwark, if you will, to protecting those freedoms, to continue them going forward, well, for not only for the rest of our lives, but the next generation and so on, right? It's incumbent upon us to do the education in the best way possible, and I shared this earlier in the show. Like I said, if you missed it, go to yourpersonalbank.com. You can listen to this or any of the previous shows. But whenever you have the opportunity, I love doing this. Hey, you ask me to wear a mask or do this or do that. I want to ask you a favor. Next time you vote for somebody that supports our freedoms, somebody who supports our civil liberties. That's what we need to do. Contact me for more information at yourpersonalbank.com or toll free 866-268-4422 if you want more information on how to enhance your financial future and navigate this stuff we're going through as we're going through it. So I'll look forward to talking to you soon.
For more information on Your Personal Bank, feel free to contact Ference at yourpersonalbank.com. This show is designed to provide accurate and authoritative information. The presenter and guest on this program do not engage in legal, accounting, or tax advice. Professional advice regarding your situation should be sought if required. Products and riders may have limitations and may not be available in all states. Excessive unpaid loans may affect performance. Distributions may become taxable if not managed properly. Replacements may not be suitable for everyone. There may be charges when replacing coverage. Compare when considering a replacement. Dividend rates and baseline of credit rates may change. Contact yourpersonalbank.com for current rates.